Best Irish music on irishradio.org with Jerry Byrne.
I'm Jerry Byrne, Irish Radio it is. Since the onset of COVID and all the rest of it, I've been speaking to some of the great and the good of music and entertainment. I've got a gentleman now who's from County Roscommon. He spent his working life as an environmental health officer. Now, he's recently retired. He lives with his wife in the shadows of the Curlew Mountains in North Roscommon. And now, despite working full-time, he made space over the years to record 3 albums of original songs. He's toured folk clubs of the UK extensively, toured Germany on a number of occasions, performed occasionally in Spain, US, Australia and New Zealand. I'm delighted to say a big hello to Donal O'Connor. Donal, how are you?
Very well, Jerry. Thanks very much for having me on your show.
It's a real pleasure, Donal. Listen, you've despite the fact of you've been working, I mean, you've got around and you've certainly concentrated well on the music also.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose music was my first love, Jerry, and always was. And I've always dedicated some of whatever leave I could build up during my working life. I would always dedicate a certain amount of it to the music. So I would have spent probably 2 weeks of every year for the last 15 years traversing the highways and byways of Scotland, England, and Wales, I suppose, to a lesser extent. But I would have lived that life of a professional musician for a very short period of time every year, and then unfortunately revert back to the old day job then to pay the mortgage and that. But right. Yeah, I've focused on music for a certain period of time in every given year.
Right. Tell me, who are the folk artists that you most admire or most influenced you?
I would think one of two, I would say, Jerry. It's very hard to spend time playing folk music in Ireland without being touched by Christy Moore. So whether I like it or not, and I suppose I must say that I do like it, I would be influenced by Christy Moore, because I think he influences everybody, because he's all pervasive, really. But also, a man I really respect and had the pleasure of meeting quite recently is Rat Maxwell, originally from Croydon. I'm not sure where Rat lives now, but I had the utter joy of meeting him after a concert in Sligo about 2 years ago, and we had a bit of an ease up and a chat, and I really enjoyed my time chatting to him.
Yes, one of the all-time greats, no doubt about it, and has remained involved in folk music right throughout his life, from the early days of the big number one of the streets of London through all of the rest of the work that he's done.
Yeah, and what I was really impressed by was his warmth and sort of an integrity about him. You know, he was warm, he was gentle, he was welcoming, and I was, you know, people often say you should never meet your heroes. Well, he was one of my heroes that I was absolutely delighted to meet, and wasn't in the slightest bit disappointed. He even, would you say, he impressed me more than I thought he would.
Yes, he is absolutely fantastic artist. How did you become, Donal, involved in folk music in the first place?
Not sure how to even answer that question. My oldest sister, I'm the youngest of 4, and my oldest sister learned music in the local school, and there was only one guitar in the house. She would come home having had a guitar lesson at school, and she would teach me what she learned. And I suppose I'm blowing my own trumpet a little bit, and I don't mean to, but I think I had more of an interest in guitar playing than she had, and I became a better guitar player than her quite quickly on her tutelage, if you know what I mean, with her teaching me. So basically, I played her guitar for many years, and you know, I'm 60 now, and back at the time that I was speaking about, money wasn't all that plentiful, and I didn't own a guitar until I earned my first month's wages.
Right.
So I was playing borrowed guitars right throughout my teenage years.
Right. Excellent. Excellent stuff. Well done. You've kept up the love of the music, and then it's all original material. Now you've 3 albums, and it's original material on them.
Yes, yeah. I started writing about 30 years ago, Jerry. I started to write, and I pretty much kept it. I kept it under wraps for a long time that I was actually writing songs, and then a time came when I reached my 40th year. I just said, like, what would I started to think in terms of one's mortality, and I just thought, if I were to kick the bucket next year or the year after, nobody would know that I had these songs written. So, not with any sort of great ambition to make anything out of the songs, other than just expose them. In my 40th year, I threw a few quid aside and I recorded an album. Initially, I went in to record about 4 songs, and the enthusiasm and the feedback I got in the studio led me to write more, even on the spot. I was writing in the studio, and that 4-album EP turned into that 4-song EP turned into a 10-song album.
Right.
And then within about 4 years, I had a second one.
Right.
So like it's almost like a wheel started to turn, and I couldn't stop it turning. So at that point in time, I sort of felt, oh gee, I better keep up this writing stuff. So that's so many years on. I'm now on my 3rd album, and I'm delighted to be there.
Right, excellent. I believe your 3rd album you released pretty recently.
Literally, it's not even a week out there. I released it on Friday night online. The most underrated or low-key release that any album ever received. We just flicked a switch on Facebook and put it out there, and sold a few copies before midnight, and we've been selling them since. There's a steady trickle. They're flying out every day here. So it's really just like a sitting room exercise. I'm sitting down in the morning, checking the email, packing up CDs and heading for the post office with them, and that's what's happening. And I would have loved to have had a launch of it, but just we're under level what we refer to as level 5 restrictions here, which is pretty much almost total lockdown. So it wasn't a snowball's chance in hell of any sort of a launch.
Yes.
So
yeah.
the launch will have to wait. There are plans afoot to do a sort of a launch, but we're not sure exactly what shape or form that will take.
Right. And you've done some Facebook Lives, I believe.
Not many, Jerry. Not many. I'll tell you what is in the offing is that we have a plan right at the end of the month to film a concert with a band. Most of the instruments will be played by the people who were in the studio with me in the making of the most recent album. So I would have a 4-piece band with me, and we're planning to film that and edit it and do quite a proper presentation of that. So hopefully, if all goes to plan, that will go out sometime in early December. So that's where the energy is going at the moment.
Excellent. Well done on that. Well done. And are you doing that? How are you actually recording that? Are you doing it in a theatre or a hall, or
in a local theatre? But the social distance element will have to be abided by to the letter of the law. There won't be an audience,
right?
Which I'm going to find very unusual, because I sort of feed off the audience, I suppose, as most artists do.
Yes.
So it's going to be a bit of a challenge to do it without an audience. But look, it's great to get any sort of a gig in the type of atmosphere that we're living through at the moment.
Indeed so. I mean, it's I think the music and the arts, and this includes theatre and all forms of performance art, has been really hammered as a result of this pandemic.
Indeed, Jerry, and what's sort of very interesting about just what you said there is that when we're all locked down, and both here in Ireland and with you where you are at the moment, what do we rely on when we're locked down other than the arts? We read books, we watch films. The very thing that sustains us is the very thing that's stifled out of our lives just now.
Indeed so, and it's a real shame, but it's one of those things that must do's, unfortunately, at the moment. Now, another thing, Donal, that you're into is cycling, touring cycling. Now, not your multicoloured lycra thing, but sort of pounding the hard shoulder type of cycling.
Yeah. I've always been one who exercised. From my earliest days, I was never one to vegetate for too long, and I've changed my form of exercise every given couple of years. But my latest for the last 6 or 8 years, I just basically very, very simply I invested in a very good touring bike, and I've done most of, probably not all, but most of the greenways in Ireland, and my plan is to do a quite extensive one, COVID allowing, is to do a quite extensive one, which I'm training for at the moment, from Achill Island in the west of Ireland, across Europe to Auschwitz. So I've calculated that it could take probably maybe around 7 weeks, and my daily pitch there is about 40 miles a day. And I'm really looking forward to that, and the training is ongoing and going very well, which I'm very happy about. I just love, Jerry. I love the notion of cycling in a traffic-free environment where you don't even have to protect yourself or think about your safety, where you're just by the very nature of where you are, you're safe from traffic. And thank God there's a movement right across Europe of providing more and more greenways for cyclists and for walking and bridleways and things like that. And of course, you've got them there, and I've used them quite a lot. The canal paths up and down England, they're just tailor made for that type of thing, and they're a great benefit to any country. And we don't have as many as you have, but they're increasing in number, and I'm very excited about it.
Indeed, so I find it comical that you're actually saying how you're looking forward to the journey from Achill to Auschwitz. It's not. I'll have to say, it's not something that I should be looking forward to, or be looking at it with the sheer intrepidation and dread, to be honest. So, well done.
Yep. And if I can tell you, Jerry, where it came from, I think where it came from was I was doing a gig in a town called Jena, which isn't far from. It's in the sort of Dresden, Berlin area. And I was chatting to a lovely young man who was involved with the music scene there, and he was probably in his middle 20s or late 20s when the wall came down in '89. And I said, "And what did you do when the wall came down?" And he said, I had some money saved in the bank. He said, "Not much, but I had a little money saved." And he says, "All of my life I wanted to go to the West, and I couldn't go because of the Iron Curtain." So he says, I withdrew my money, and I got on my bike, and I cycled west and west and west. And I said, "And where did you end up?" And he said, "I ended up in Achill Island in the west of Ireland." So I think in some way I'm sort of doing the reverse trip from him. I was always fascinated by that story when I heard it, and I often thought about it many times since. And I said, I'd love to do something like that. So I'm basically doing it in the opposite direction.
Wow, well done. Well, and indeed, to that guy who started that journey from near Auschwitz to get to Achill, that is one heck of a journey. It really is. So fair play.
An amazing young man. Yeah.
Indeed. So, and well done to yourself for tackling it. Another of your hobbies, I believe, is vegetable gardening. Yeah. Again, something I always wanted to do right throughout my life, and I said that maybe in my 40s I had this notion. Well, that's what I'll do when I retire. And a point came in my life shortly when I was sort of playing around with that idea of doing it when I retire was, why am I waiting until I retire?
Why would you wait that length of time? Why not? You could waste so much time waiting to do it. Why not just do it? So my wife would have done a little bit of it, and some friends and neighbours would have done a little bit of it. And I knew if I started, I would be said and led and advised by all of those, and that we could possibly have arguments because of, who's the expert here and who's the expert there. So I went off and I did an organic gardening course, which lasted probably, an evening course, a part-time course, but it lasted about 9 months. And it was probably the best thing I ever did in my life, because I got an appreciation for how precious food is. I got an appreciation for, how one should use all parts of the plant if they can at all. I got an appreciation of how one shouldn't just waste food willy-nilly. And I got an appreciation of the whole thing about air miles. And, sometimes we here in Ireland, we import garlic from China. And I can grow garlic about 8 metres away from where I'm sitting here now talking to you. And I can grow the best of garlic there. Why would we have to bring it from China? Why would we sort of impose those type of air miles on us when we can do it at home? There's some things we have to import, but there are lots of things we don't have to import, and we're well able to do them here ourselves.
Indeed,
so it was sort of. Sorry.
How true it is. How true it is. There are plenty of things that can actually be grown, in Ireland, which don't have to be taken halfway around the world.
Yeah, and there was a whole sort of environmental awareness that sort of exploded inside me around the whole thing of vegetable growing, and not least to mention just the physical effort that you do, particularly around the springtime. Around February, March is quite busy, and you're doing a lot of physical exertion in the garden, and you come in the evening time and you light the fire, and you might have a can of beer or something by the fire, and your muscles are tingling, and your lungs are just full of fresh air, and you sleep like a baby that night, and that's just part of that is thoroughly enjoyable as well.
Excellent stuff, excellent. Donal, listen, it's been lovely to catch up with you. Thanks very much indeed for chatting to me. Listen, I wish you all the luck in the world with the latest album, your new album, and also the live show that you're doing. Looking forward to actually seeing that. And listen, stay safe and stay well. And listen, hopefully our paths shall cross along the way when all of this is over.
Jerry, it's been a pleasure, and thanks very much for the interview, and thanks for having me on your show.